Hey, Jim D here from Pure Jeevan. Today I'm here with Leigh Crizoe, if you'd like to pan over, show Leigh. Yesterday, hopefully you watched, we interviewed Rio. Leigh is Rio's partner. They've been together a long time, and Wendy got to talk to Rio, and today I'm talking to Leigh. So, since you're
Leigh, who's known as the reluctant partner.
Reluctant partner, and why is that?
It's because originally I didn't want to get into raw foods. I was kind of a slow poke. It was actually pretty easy for me to become a vegetarian because when Rio and I first got together, I was a meat eater, and then Rio started making some really good vegetarian dishes. And it was a pretty easy transition because as a vegetarian I was able to substitute, instead of eating meat, I'd eat vegetables, but I was also eating pasta and rice and beans and things like that. So it wasn't a difficult transition, but getting into raw foods was a little difficult because at that time there weren't all the great books that there are now, and it was a pretty off-the-wall thing. When you told people you were getting into raw foods, they looked at you like you were in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, so I think I've been there, and
yeah,
sure some of the other gentlemen listeners right. may be able to identify as well.
And at that time, you know, Rio would take me to all these lectures. Like I'd go to see Victoras Kulvinskis, or I'd go to see Brian Clement. And when I'd ask people questions about what they were eating, they were pretty evasive. Oh, I throw this in the blender, throw that in the blender. And to me, it didn't really sound that satisfying because I wanted food that really tasted good. And that's what, in the beginning, I think kind of inspired Rio to start working on her book, Hooked on Raw, because I said, I want food that tastes good. I want something that's going to stick to my ribs, and I want to be happy. I want to eat foods that I enjoy eating. I don't want to be eating something and have my face, you know, look like that. And, you know.
So you guys started making more gourmet things when?
Well, actually, Rio started inventing different dishes. And there was one point where I went to California. I was out there for some business, and there was actually, I think, probably the first raw food restaurant out there. A fella had gotten a bunch of recipes for somebody who was a veteran in the raw food community, Aris Latham, who was, I think, one of the first gourmet chefs in the raw food community. He opened this restaurant using Aris's recipes. And so when I was out there, Rio kept saying, you know, well, what are you eating? What are you eating? And so I would go to this restaurant with our son, who was living out there at the time. And I started eating these foods, and I said, wow, this tastes pretty good. And I tried to imitate some of these recipes because the fellow who had the restaurant didn't want to part with any of the recipes. And Rio was happy that I was doing it, and then Rio started coming up with all these great recipes. And so, and I've always played the devil's advocate. I'm a difficult guy, you know, well, why should I eat this or why should I eat that? And I'm pretty honest about it. I've been reluctant, but I do what I call a high raw diet.
Okay. And
my body tells me if I happen to go too far in the other direction, it will definitely tell me. So I try to do the best I can and eat as healthy as I can.
I'm smiling because we over the weekend talked about some of those lapses in the other direction.
Yes. When I've been caught on camera.
There were a few funny stories. Right. I don't know if you want to go into any of those now.
Well, you probably don't have enough time for that.
The bagel story was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell the bagel story.
You want me to tell the bagel story?
I guess it's a pretty funny story.
Well, what happened was Rio had gotten somebody to help on the farm who lived in the area, and he didn't have a car, so his girlfriend had to pick him up. You know, so it's the end of the day, and his girlfriend pulls up in the car, and then Rio meets her, and Rio calls me over to meet her, and then she says, "Oh, I know you. You're the guy I served the bagels and cream cheese to." Apparently she worked at the deli at the market, and I was busted. But something good came out of it because Rio says, okay, I'm going to invent some raw bagels, which he did, and they are absolutely delicious.
I heard, and that's on your DVD, right?
Yeah, it's on the new DVD.
Okay. Wow. So I can't wait to watch.
Gotta be careful what I say. Rio's in the corner.
I know, she's here. She's here. So. Leigh and Rio are from New York City, and I'd asked Leigh about, you know, when he was there on 9/11, and that led to some interesting, his retelling of what his experience that day, but also some stuff that is probably of interest to raw foodists. There was a detox program available to New Yorkers after that, and I thought I wanted to ask you about what was your experience with 9/11, and could you also explain to us what happened during that detox program, how that worked?
Well, 9/11 was really a horrible experience. We were less than 10 blocks from ground zero. I happened to be walking down the street at 8:30 in the morning that day, and the plane that hit the World Trade Center flew over my head. It literally sounded like a plane that was about to crash, and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And 30 seconds later, that plane was in the World Trade Center. And also, we just got a bird's eye view from where we were of both buildings coming down.
Wow.
It was really a horrible experience. Also, it gave us a glimpse of what a police state or a military state would be like, because that whole area for 3 months after was literally cordoned off, and you had to show identification to get in and out, and it was a pretty scary experience.
Wow.
Plus the fact, one thing that people don't think about, because we're in a plastic society, we don't deal in cash anymore, so when all the electric went out in the area, we couldn't get to any ATM machines. The markets were closed, food was spoiling, and the few places that were open that did have electricity, if you needed cash, you would have to get out of the zone and back into the zone after you got the cash to buy anything.
Wow.
So it was a glimpse of something, if we were ever attacked, or if something really seriously happened, like a Katrina, what do you do? When there's no power, no access to banks, no money, no food.
Wow. And so I'm sure everybody's seen these videos. I mean, I know I've seen them, including that day, but when the buildings came down, there was just this cloud of smoke that just overtook Manhattan, and particulate matter and crap. And of course, everyone who lived there breathed this stuff in for a long time.
We did too, because Christy Todd Whitman, who was head of the environmental, I forgot her exact title at the time, but she said the air was safe to breathe. So we knew it wasn't really safe, but we figured, okay, we would wear, the dust masks, and we had the air filters going, but we had no idea at the time how actually bad it was. But we were very fortunate to come across a program, a detox program that actually Tom Cruise had set up in our area. He had put up the initial money for it. What really gave us a clue to what was happening, we were on the way to Key West. And it was really hot. The air conditioning wasn't working in the car, and my t-shirt was actually black, and it was the toxins, the heavy metals, coming out of the t-shirts.
Your white t-shirt?
Coming out of my body onto the t-shirt. And I found out what it really was when I got back to New York and started doing the program, because at the detox program they were showing me these different t-shirts from different firefighters who had been doing the program and detoxing, and it was basically the same thing that was on my t-shirt coming out of their t-shirts.
Wow.
So it was very interesting. And it was Rio and I both did it. Rio did 70 days, and I did 30 days of the detox program. And it was very helpful. We could really see a difference.
What the protocol was.
Well, what they did was, it was under medical supervision, but they gradually started you out with, let's say, 100 milligrams of niacin, and you eventually worked yourself up to 5,000. Every day you come in, they take your blood pressure, they give you the niacin, then you go on a treadmill for about a half hour, get your blood going, and then you go into the sauna for 5 hours. You do, let's say, a half hour, come out for 10 minutes, take a shower, get all of whatever you sweat it out off of your body. Mm-hmm. Then you go back in and you keep repeating the process. At the end of the day, what you do, they give you a combination of cold pressed oils and lecithin, and that they figured out basically keeps you from reabsorbing what your body has excreted, mm-hmm. and it really absorbs the new oils. So basically it gets rid of the toxins.
Everyone in the program got the same stuff, or you and Rio got something a little bit different?
Well, because we were on raw foods and we weren't into synthetic vitamins, because doing this program, you're sweating out vitamins and minerals, so they put you on mega vitamin therapy, and they were very wonderful people. They worked with us to get substitutes for vitamins that were synthetic, that we normally wouldn't take, mm-hmm. and minerals that we wouldn't take. So,
well, I think that's all the time we have, so thanks, Leigh.
Hey, my pleasure.
We'll post this online. You can check it out on our blog.